The party comes across a clearing in the eastern end of the high forest of Faerun. Above in the sky, they notice the outlines of a bird high in the sky, its shape hidden by the blinding sun rays. The party begins to make camp when, in the distance, the figure appears to get larger. It's hard to figure out if it's large and far away or small and up close. Soon their worries are answered when a male birdfolk appears in front of them. He has a rustic javelin with heavy plumage strapped to his leather armor. The party raise their weapons, but the creature raises its hands, showing he means no harm. The creature begins to speak in common. I come in peace. Please. My home has been invaded by a pack of animalistic griffins. Please, adventurers, will you come and rescue my home atop the mountain? The party pauses for a moment and looks at each other before slowly lowering their weapons. Okay, says the cleric. Show us the way and we'll help you. The birdfolk introduces himself as Icky, one of his tribe's soldiers. Icky takes flight and beckons the party to follow him. The party soon arrives at a makeshift shelter in the branches of a large oak tree. Inside the shelter, the party is greeted by the elder, Zeed, who tells them of a plan. The party's soldiers will join their powers together to summon an air elemental which will carry the party to the precipice of the mountain. From there, the party will assault the great nest and drive away the invading griffins. Hello and welcome to today's video on the Aarakocra. There's going to be two main overarching themes. Firstly, what the monster manual tells you, and secondly, what the monster manual does not tell you about the Aarakocra. So let's begin with the monster manual tells you. First up, physical characteristics. Aarakocra have average strength, constitution, intelligence, and charisma, and they have slightly above average dex and wisdom. They are medium humanoids, and they tend to be neutral good as a baseline, but tribal leaders tend to be lawful, whereas adventurers tend to be more chaotic. Just like any race, they can vary. Where they exist? Well, they exist in Kryn, Greyhawk, Athos, Toril, and other places on the material plane, but they originate from the elemental plane of air. They are enemies of elemental evil. Aarakocra scour the plains in search of temples of elemental evil. On the material plane, Aarakocra creates an eyrie on the top of the highest mountains, especially those which are near portals to the elemental plane of air. Aarakocra prefer to live like the wind, unburdened and never moving. They believe a creature should use what is necessary and then cast what is not to the wind for others to use. Aarakocra have no concept of political borders, and the value of gems, gold, and other precious materials means little to them. After all, who owns the sky? They're also in search of the Seven Shards. Aarakocra have historical ties to the Wind Dukes of Akka. Exceptional individuals who honour that connection might seek out the missing pieces of the Rod of Seven Parts, the remains of an artifact fashioned by the Wind Dukes long ago to defeat the Queen of Chaos's monstrous companion, Miska, the Wolf Spider. Also, 5 Aarakocra can summon an air elemental. As a bit of an aside, this process reminds me of making a Super Saiyan God in the Dragon Ball universe. I don't know why. I just like the idea that 5 Aarakocra are like holding hands and flying into the air, exuding a magical aura which brings forth this air elemental. It just seems pretty cool to me. Okay, anyway, sidetrack aside, back to what the monster manual does not tell you. So first up, names. Aarakocra are also called Birdfolk, Skyhunter, and Featherheads. Aarakocra themselves have short names such as Era, Ail, and Tikek, but may use shortened versions of their names or nicknames when interacting with their races. They are featured heavily in the module The Lost Temple of Therizigen, where you learn two main things. Firstly, that griffins are their enemy, and also they pay in gemstones. As I previously established, they don't really find that material things have that much worth to them. Okay, what do they look like? Well, Aarakocra are bird-like humanoids with feathers and a beak. Their hands have 3 fingers and a thumb, and they also have a pair of feathered wings. Standing upright, an Aarakocra might reach 5 feet tall, and they have long, narrow legs that taper to sharp talons. Male Aarakocra tend to have brighter plumage, often red, yellow, orange, while female Aarakocra have duller colours such as brown or grey. Aarakocra have lean, lightweight bodies, typically 80 to 100 pounds, and their skeletons are hollow and fragile. What about flight? Well, once airborne, an Aarakocra leaves the sky with reluctance. On their native plane, they can fly for days, even months, landing only to lay eggs and feed their young before launching themselves back into the air. Until D&D 5e, Aarakocra could not use their hands on their wings while flying and depended on their talons to grasp weapons during aerial combat. Um, so a slight change from previous editions. Language. Many Aarakocra punctuate their speech with chirps and other sounds they use to convey emphasis and to show meaning. Aarakocra words as well as names include clicks, trills, and whistles, which make them difficult to pronounce for outsiders. I gave it my try when I did the little intro spiel. What about their temperament? Well, confinement terrifies the Aarakocra. To be grounded, trapped underground, or imprisoned by the cold, unyielding earth is torment few Aarakocra can withstand. Even when perched on a high branch or at rest in their mountaintop homes, they're alert. Aarakocra enjoy peace and solitude. Most of them have little interest in dealing with other people and less interest in spending on time on the ground. For this reason, it takes an exceptional circumstance for an Aarakocra to leave his or her tribe and undertake an adventurer's life. Neither treasure nor glory is enough to lure them from their tribes. A dire threat to their people, a mission of vengeance, or a catastrophe typically lies at the heart of an Aarakocra's adventure's chosen path. Next up, culture. A typical colony consists of one large communal open roofed nest made of woven vines. The eldest act as leader, whereas the second eldest acts as a shaman. Aarakocra are sworn foes of elemental earth, particularly the gargoyles that serve Ogremok, the Prince of Earth. Aarakocra on that plane might leave their colonies to lend aid to humanoids committed to fighting earth cults and thwarting their efforts. Most Aarakocra favor javelins as their weapon for both stabbing and throwing. Aarakocra can also use their talons in combat and can bite with their beaks, but rarely do so except when cornered. And lastly, many Aarakocra worship the deity Sirenita. Some also worship deities such as Kroka or Chikura. Aarakocra clerics favor deities with domains focused on air, healing, and the sun. Worshippers of Chikura may use trance-inducing charak seeds, which can grant them visions. What about their lifestyle? Well, Aarakocra mating seasons occur once a year, during which male plumage is especially striking. Aarakocra lay eggs, which take 8 months to hatch. They are incubated by females in the elemental plane of air. Laying eggs or feeding their young are pretty much the only reasons why an Aarakocra motivates itself to land. Aarakocra are considered mature by the age of 3 and typically don't live beyond 30. However, in Dragon Magazine number 124, it states that Aarakocra can live to be over 100, so a bit of conflicting information there. And lastly, a little aside for other settings. If you listen to this channel, you know I'm a big fan of Spelljammer, so I'm going to give you a little bit of Spelljammer lore. Aarakocra in Wild Space have spelljamming ships that use feathered hides and cloth. Their ships also shed fluff and down during transit, which can affect those with allergies. Okay, that is today's video on the Aarakocra. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I will read all comments and maybe share it with a friend. Okay, thanks for listening.